The first thing you notice isn't the darkness. It's the sound. A low, metallic thud that echoes through your chest more than your ears. Steel on steel. Final. Not slammed in anger, closed with procedure. Like this has happened 1,000 times before. Like it will happen 1,000 times again. The door seals, and suddenly the world shrinks. No windows. No clock. No voices. Just 4 concrete walls that feel closer than they should. The cell is barely wider than your outstretched arms. 8 feet long if you count the toilet bolted to the floor as usable space. The light overhead flickers once, then steadies, fluorescent, pale, unforgiving. This is solitary confinement. They don't call it that here. Officially, it's administrative segregation. ADSEG. A safety measure. A cooling-off period. That's the language used in reports and policies. But inside this room, language doesn't matter. Meaning collapses fast. You stand there, still cuffed, waiting for instructions that don't come. The slot in the door stays closed. No one explains how long you'll be here. No one tells you what happens next. Minutes stretch. Or maybe it's seconds. Without a clock, time becomes a guess. Your heartbeat sounds louder than it should. Every breath echoes back at you, bouncing off concrete, like the room is listening. The cuffs finally come off through the slot. No words, just the scrape of metal and the brief brush of a gloved hand you never see. The slot closes again. Silence returns. This is when it hits you. No one is coming back for a while. You sit on the thin concrete slab they call a bed. No mattress yet. That comes later if you're lucky. The slab is cold, even through your clothes. The toilet is inches away. No privacy. No separation. Everything you do from now on happens in this box. You try to remember why you're here. Maybe it was a fight. Maybe you mouthed off. Maybe you were in the wrong place when someone else snapped. In solitary, the reason fades quickly. The result is what matters. Your mind reaches for distraction, something, anything. But there's nothing to grab. No books. No TV. No human voice. Not even the distant noise of a normal cell block. Solitary is built away from everything else, like a prison inside the prison. The silence isn't peaceful. It's heavy, pressurized. Like being underwater. You lie back and stare at the ceiling. The light hums softly. That hum will become important later. You don't know it yet, but this sound will follow you into sleep, into dreams, into thoughts you can't shut off. Right now you're still you, still grounded, still thinking in full sentences. That won't last. This is only hour 1, and the door isn't opening anytime soon. Night doesn't arrive in solitary confinement the way it does everywhere else. There's no sunset, no fading light, no signal that the day is ending. The fluorescent bulb above your head stays on, buzzing faintly, casting the same pale glow it's had since the door closed. If this is night, it feels identical to morning. Time doesn't move forward here, it just stretches. You lie on the concrete slab, arms crossed over your chest, staring upward. They slid in a thin mattress hours ago through the slot, thin enough that the concrete still presses into your shoulder blades. The blanket smells like bleach and something older. You don't think about that too long. The silence starts to change. At first, it's empty. Then it fills in. Your ears begin inventing sound, a faint ringing, the echo of your own breathing, the soft click of a light cycling. Somewhere far away, metal scrapes against metal. A door. Maybe. Or maybe your mind just wants it to be. You close your eyes. That's a mistake. Without visuals, your thoughts rush forward, unfiltered. Every bad decision you've ever made shows up at once, demanding attention. Conversations replay with new endings. Faces you haven't thought about in years suddenly feel close. You try to push them away, but there's nowhere for them to go. You sit up, heart beating faster than it should. The cell feels smaller now. The walls haven't moved, but the space between them feels tighter. You stretch your arms out again, just to remind yourself there's still room to breathe. Sleep doesn't come easily here. When it does, it comes in pieces, short, shallow bursts that end with you snapping awake, unsure of how much time has passed. 10 minutes? An hour? There's no way to know. Each time you wake, the light is still on. The walls are still there. Nothing has changed. You start counting breaths. 1 to 10. Then back again. It works for a while. Then your thoughts slip in between the numbers. At some point, you realize something unsettling. You're not afraid of the darkness. You're afraid of how loud your own mind is becoming. This is only the first night. And already, silence is starting to talk back. You wake up already exhausted. Not because you slept, but because your body tried to. Your eyes open slowly, expecting something to be different. A shift in light. A sound. Anything that signals forward movement. Nothing. The same fluorescent bulb hums above you. Same walls. Same stale air. Morning, if that's what this is, looks exactly like last night. You sit up and wait. In general population, mornings have noise. Doors popping. Voices. Boots on concrete. Here, there's none of that. Solitary doesn't wake up, it just continues. Your stomach tightens. Hunger shows up early here, sharp and insistent. You don't know what time breakfast usually comes. You don't know if it comes at all. The uncertainty does something strange. It makes the hunger feel bigger than it should be. You stand, stretch, pace the length of the cell. 3 steps forward. 3 steps back. Any more, and you'll hit the wall. You start doing it again. And again. Movement becomes a way to prove you still exist. Eventually, the slot opens. No warning. Just the sudden clank of metal. A tray slides in lukewarm food, plastic spoon, no eye contact. The slot closes. The interaction lasts 3 seconds. You eat slower than you should. Not because the food is good, it isn't, but because it's the only event you'll get for a while. When the tray is empty, the room feels quieter than before. That's when it hits you. Without schedules, without markers, your brain starts losing its grip on time. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel endless. You wonder how many mornings you've already lived through. It's only the first one. And it already feels fake. By what you guess is midday, time begins to behave differently. You try counting hours in your head, but the math doesn't work. There's nothing to anchor it to. No clock. No sun. Just a light that never changes. You sit on the bunk and stare at your hands. You flex your fingers slowly, watching them move like they belong to someone else. The mind starts looking for proof of reality wherever it can find it. Your thoughts loop. You think about the door. How thick it is. How it didn't hesitate when it closed. You replay the sound over and over. It's strange how your brain clings to the moment everything changed. You start talking. Not loudly. Just a whisper at first. You narrate what you're doing. Sitting. Standing. Breathing. The sound of your own voice startles you. It feels illegal somehow, like you're breaking a rule you don't remember agreeing to. But silence pushes back harder. So you keep talking, just to hear something human. At some point, you forget what you were saying. The words trail off, leaving a heavy pause behind. That pause feels dangerous. Like if you let it stay too long, it might swallow you. Your heart beats faster. You pace again. 3 steps. Turn. 3 steps. Your shadow follows you along the wall, distorted and stretched. You stop suddenly, unsure if it moved before you did. You laugh once. It comes out wrong. This is when the first thought slips in quiet, unwelcome. How long until this changes me? The cell hasn't changed, but it feels smaller. You notice it when you try to stretch out fully and hesitate, not because you'll hit the wall, but because your body doesn't trust the space anymore. The room feels crowded even when you're alone. You sit on the floor instead of the bunk. The concrete is colder here. You welcome it. Sensation becomes valuable. You press your palm flat against the wall. It's rough, uneven. You trace the texture with your fingers slowly, memorizing it like a map. You need something solid, something predictable. Your thoughts start drifting in strange directions. You imagine conversations that aren't happening. Hear half-formed replies in your head. You catch yourself turning, expecting someone to be there. No one is. Your breathing gets shallow. The air feels thicker, harder to pull in. You remind yourself, this is just a room. 4 walls. A door. That's all. But your body doesn't listen. You sit back against the wall, knees pulled in tight. This posture feels safer. Smaller. You stay like that for a long time. At some point, the light flickers. Just once. Your heart jumps like something touched you. You realize you're afraid of the room now. Not of violence. Not of punishment. Of being alone with nothing but your own thoughts. If it's night again, you can't tell. Your body says you should sleep. Your mind refuses. The light overhead hums louder now, or maybe you're just paying more attention. You find yourself staring at it, tracking its faint vibrations. You imagine smashing it. The thought surprises you with how clear it is. You lie down anyway, turning your face toward the wall. The blanket scratches against your skin. Every sound feels amplified. Your breathing, the shift of fabric, the swallow in your throat. Sleep comes in fragments. You dream that you're back in a normal room. Windows, shadows, darkness. You wake up disoriented, almost panicked, when the dream ends. The light is still on. You feel anger rise, sharp, sudden, misplaced. At the room, at the door, at yourself for being affected by this at all. You roll onto your back and stare upward again. This time, you don't blink for a long while. When food arrives again, you realize something terrifying. You're relieved to see it, not because you're hungry, but because it proves something is still happening. That time hasn't stopped completely. You eat mechanically. Faster this time. Efficiency is replacing appreciation. Survival mode tightening its grip. After the tray disappears, the silence rushes back in harder than before. You sit on the bunk and feel it settle around you. Day 2 has started, and already, the edges of your thoughts feel softer, less defined, like they're starting to blur. You wonder how many more hours you have left. You wonder who you'll be when they finally open the door. By the time you realize you've been sitting still too long, your legs have gone numb. You shift your weight, and the pins and needles sensation floods in sharp and fast. Pain feels exaggerated here, like your nerves are closer to the surface. You welcome it anyway. Pain means feedback. Pain means something is still responding. The silence has changed again. It's no longer empty. It feels aware, like it's listening back. You catch yourself holding your breath just to see if the room notices. It does. At least, it feels like it does. You whisper your name under your breath. Just once. It sounds strange, detached from you, as if someone else said it. You don't repeat it. Something about doing that feels risky, like calling attention to yourself in the dark. Your thoughts start circling the same ideas. Food. Time. The door. Over and over. You try thinking about something from before, a street, a voice, a memory. But the images come out flat, incomplete. Like copies of copies. You sit on the bunk and rock slightly without realizing it. The movement is small, almost involuntary. When you notice, you stop. The room feels tighter again. You press your ear to the door, hoping for sound. Anything. Footsteps. Voices. The distant clatter of a cart. You hear nothing. Then, faintly, something else. A hum. Not the light. Something lower. Deeper. It lasts just long enough for your heart to spike before it's gone. You pull back from the door fast, pulse racing. You tell yourself it was the building. Pipes. Airflow. Anything normal. But your body doesn't calm down. The silence doesn't feel neutral anymore. It feels personal. You stop talking out loud. Not because you don't want to, but because the sound of your own voice starts startling you. Each word echoes too sharply, like it doesn't belong in the room. So you think instead. That's worse. Your mind digs into itself, replaying moments you've already examined 100 times. Every mistake feels heavier now. Every memory sharper at the edges. There's no distraction to soften them. You argue with yourself internally. Then you catch yourself responding, mentally, to thoughts you didn't consciously start. That realization sends a chill through you. You sit still, listening to your breathing, making sure it stays steady. You become hyper-aware of every bodily function, every swallow, every blink, every itch. You scratch your arm until the skin feels warm. Time crawls. You imagine the people outside this room moving freely, talking, eating, laughing. The image feels unreal, like a movie you once saw but don't quite remember. At some point, you feel watched. Not by a person, by the space itself. The corners feel heavier. The ceiling too close. You stand and turn slowly, scanning the room, even though you know there's nowhere to hide. Your heart rate stays high longer than it should. You realize you're no longer waiting to leave. You're waiting for something to happen. And that thought scares you more than the silence ever did. The shift is subtle. You don't notice it happening, only that it's already happened. The panic fades, but not into calm. Into something emptier, quieter. Your reactions slow down. Your thoughts lose urgency. Even hunger feels distant now, like it belongs to someone else. You sit on the bunk, staring forward, not focused on anything in particular. Minutes pass without you tracking them. You don't care enough to count anymore. When the tray comes, you barely react. You eat because it's there. Because that's what you do. Not because you want to. You feel detached from your body, like you're observing yourself from a few feet away. The sensation is unsettling, but also easier. Less sharp. Your mind seems to be protecting itself by pulling back. You don't fight it. You lie down and stare at the wall. The texture blurs slightly if you look too long. You blink slowly, deliberately. There's a faint sense of relief in not feeling everything so intensely. That realization unsettles you, because you know this numbness isn't healing. It's adaptation. The first visual trick is small. You notice a dark shape near the corner of the wall. Just a shadow, you think. But when you focus on it, it doesn't move the way shadows should. You blink. It's gone. Your chest tightens. You tell yourself your eyes are tired, that the light is messing with your vision, that this happens to people sometimes. Still, you avoid looking at that corner again. Later, you see movement near the floor. A flicker. You look down fast, nothing. Your heart rate spikes again, sharp and immediate. You sit on the bunk, hands clasped tightly together. Pressure helps. You press your palms together until they ache. You start grounding yourself silently. Naming things you can feel. The cold air. The hard surface beneath you. The fabric of your clothes. It works. Mostly. But a thought lingers, unspoken. If this is happening already, what comes next? You try to remember the last time you heard your name spoken by another person. You can't. That bothers you more than it should. Identity feels slippery here. Without interaction, without reflection, it starts to erode. You're just a body in a room, moving through routines dictated by a slot in the door. You sit quietly, conserving energy. Your movements are slower now, deliberate, minimal. Another tray arrives. You eat half and stop. Appetite feels optional. Your thoughts drift without direction. You lose them mid-sentence. You forget what you were thinking about moments earlier. The realization comes slowly, then all at once. You're not just waiting out the hours anymore. You're changing, and you don't know how to stop it. It doesn't start with a voice. It starts with the idea of one, a sense that someone is nearby, just outside your awareness. You don't hear words yet, only presence. Like when you know someone is standing behind you before they speak. You turn slowly. Nothing. You sit back down, heart racing, and tell yourself not to overreact. Isolation does this. You've heard that before. People adapt. People come back from this. Still, the feeling lingers. Later, while lying on the bunk, you hear something that sounds like a whisper. Not clear enough to understand, just a soft murmur. You hold your breath and listen. Silence. Your pulse takes longer to slow this time. You don't tell yourself it's impossible anymore. You tell yourself it's temporary. That feels safer. More manageable. You curl slightly on your side, facing the wall. You don't want to give the room your full attention. Somehow, that feels like an invitation. The light hums. Your thoughts stop flowing smoothly. They come in chunks now. Disconnected pieces that don't always link together. You forget what you were just thinking about and don't care enough to chase it. You wonder if the voices will come back. Part of you hopes they don't. Another part, quieter, more dangerous, hopes they do. You start noticing patterns. The timing of the trays. The moments when the light flickers. The way the silence deepens right before the slot opens. You tell yourself it's coincidence. But your mind disagrees. You begin constructing explanations. The staff is watching more closely now. The room is wired differently. They know something about you that you don't. The idea takes root fast. You find yourself sitting straighter when the door is quiet, controlling your movements, regulating your breathing. You don't want to give anything away, though you're not sure what that means. You stop pacing. Movement feels risky. You sit on the bunk, hands folded, staring forward, waiting. For what, you don't know. When the slot finally opens, you flinch. The reaction surprises you. Your heart pounds hard against your ribs, like it's trying to escape. Nothing unusual happens. But your body stays tense long after the slot closes. Paranoia feels rational in a place where you have no information. And no information is a weapon. Your body starts betraying you in small ways. Your hands tremble slightly when you hold them out. You notice it while eating. The spoon rattles softly against the tray. You pause, wait for it to stop. It doesn't right away. Your jaw feels tight, clenched without you realizing it. Your shoulders ache from being held too rigid for too long. Sleep becomes shallow again. Not restless, just thin. You wake often, unsure why. Sometimes you wake mid-thought, convinced you were just talking to someone. No one is there. You sit up quickly, scanning the room, heart racing. Each time, the disappointment hits harder than the fear. You didn't realize how badly you wanted company. Your reflection in the metal surface of the toilet startles you. Your face looks unfamiliar. Eyes sunken. Expression flat. You stare too long. You look away. You stop fighting the quiet. Not consciously. It just happens. You lie on the bunk longer. Move less. Think slower. The effort required to stay alert feels excessive now. You let your mind wander where it wants to go. Sometimes it brings images. Sometimes it brings nothing. Nothing feels easier. You no longer track meals as events. They come and go without significance. You eat just enough to keep the edge off. You notice you haven't stood up in a while. You tell yourself it's fine. You tell yourself you're conserving energy. Deep down, you know that's not the full truth. There's a moment, you won't know exactly when it happened, where something shifts permanently. You realize you're no longer waiting to leave solitary. You're waiting to endure it. That distinction matters. The thought doesn't scare you the way it should. It feels reasonable, logical, like this is just how things are now. You sit quietly, breathing slow, eyes unfocused. The room feels familiar, too familiar, and that's when the real damage begins. You start observing yourself like a stranger. Your actions feel pre-recorded, playing out without your full participation. Stand, sit, eat, lie down. Each movement happens a second before you consciously decide to do it. The sensation is subtle but unmistakable. You feel distant, as if you're hovering just behind your own eyes, watching someone else occupy your body. The detachment is unsettling at first, then oddly comforting. It softens everything. The fear, the frustration, even the loneliness. You stop questioning it. Your thoughts arrive muted, like they're wrapped in cloth. You lose track of them midstream. Forget what you were considering moments earlier. It doesn't bother you the way it should. You press your fingers into your thigh, hard, just to feel something definite. The pressure registers slowly, dully. You let go. The room feels flatter now. Less threatening, less real. The walls don't press in the way they used to. They're just there. This distance feels like safety. But it comes at a cost you can't fully see yet. You try to remember your address. It takes longer than it should. The numbers don't come easily. They arrive out of order, jumbled, uncertain. You piece them together slowly, correcting yourself twice. That scares you briefly. Then the fear fades, dissolving before it can take shape. You test yourself again. Birth date. You get the month right immediately. The day hesitates. The year follows a beat later, like it was hiding. You stop testing. Memories feel fragile now, like touching them too directly might make them crumble. You let them drift instead. Half-formed images float through your mind. Faces without names, places without context. You can't tell if they're real or imagined. The realization that you don't care hits harder than the confusion itself. A tray arrives. You stare at it for several seconds before recognizing what it is. You eat slowly, distracted, chewing without taste. When the slot closes, you forget it was ever open. Time has lost its edges. Emotion returns in strange, disconnected flashes. A sudden wave of sadness hits you with no clear cause. Your chest tightens. Your throat burns. For a moment, you think you might cry. Then it passes. Just like that. Anger arrives next, sharp and brief. Directed at nothing. It flickers through you, then disappears, leaving no residue behind. You sit quietly, confused more than anything else. Feelings used to mean something. They used to point somewhere. Now they show up without explanation and leave before you can respond. You start trusting them less. You lie back on the bunk, staring upward, letting whatever comes come. Nothing stays long. This emotional flattening feels wrong, but also manageable. You're no longer overwhelmed. You're disconnected. Your universe has narrowed to a handful of sensations. The hum of the light, the texture of concrete, the weight of your own body. Anything beyond that feels abstract. You stop wondering what's happening outside the room. It feels irrelevant, almost fictional. A story from another life. The door opens briefly for a check. You don't react fast enough. The movement barely registers. Later, you realize that should have mattered. You sit cross-legged on the bunk, hands resting loosely in your lap. You could stay like this for hours without discomfort. Your body has learned stillness. Your mind drifts into long stretches of nothing. And for the first time, nothing doesn't scare you. You understand now. This place isn't trying to punish your body. It's wearing down your sense of self. You accept the routine fully. The light, the silence, the isolation. You stop hoping for change. Hope takes too much energy. Acceptance settles in, heavy, quiet, emotionless. But it doesn't bring peace. It brings surrender. You sit alone in the room, breathing slow, eyes unfocused. Somewhere deep inside, a small part of you recognizes the danger of this calm. But it doesn't have the strength to push back anymore. The sound is familiar. Metal shifting. Locks disengaging. The same noise you've replayed in your head dozens of times, but this time it's real. The door opens. Light spills in from the hallway, brighter than you remember. It hurts your eyes. You squint, shielding your face instinctively, embarrassed by how quickly your body reacts. A voice tells you to step out. It takes a second to register that the instruction is meant for you. You stand slowly, legs stiff, balance slightly off. The room tilts for a moment, then settles. You take one step forward, then another, crossing the threshold you've stared at for what feels like a lifetime. The hallway feels massive, too open, too exposed. Sounds echo, footsteps, distant voices, radios crackling. Each one hits too sharply, like your senses have been turned up without warning. You keep your eyes down, unsure where to look. The door closes behind you. The sound lands differently now. Not final, but not comforting either. You realize something strange. You don't feel relief. The presence of others is overwhelming. Bodies moving close. Voices overlapping. Too much information all at once. You find yourself shrinking inward, trying to occupy less space. People talk to you. You hear the words, but they take time to process. Responses come slower than expected. You nod more than you speak. Your heart rate stays elevated. Every sound feels intrusive. Every movement unpredictable. You keep scanning, even when there's no reason to. Someone laughs nearby. The sound feels foreign, almost inappropriate. You miss the quiet. That thought hits you unexpectedly and hard. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to feel that way. But part of you does. The silence was brutal, but it was controlled. Out here, everything is chaotic. You realize how much of yourself you left behind in that room, and you're not sure how to get it back. Later, when you're alone again, in a space with windows, shadows, real darkness, you expect something to reset. It doesn't. You find yourself sitting still for long periods, listening for sounds that aren't there. You avoid bright lights. Sudden noises make your muscles tense automatically. Your thoughts feel slower, less confident, like they're missing pieces. The room feels too big now. You lie down and stare at the ceiling, waiting for sleep to come naturally. It doesn't. The silence of solitary follows you, not as quiet, but as an absence. A hollow space where reactions used to be. You understand something now that no report or statistic can explain. Solitary confinement doesn't end when the door opens. It teaches the mind how to disappear. And once you've learned that, it's hard to remember how to come all the way back. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more prison stories. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.